Hello and welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast. This is episode 31. Should actually be coming out before episode 30. We're going to talk about the results of Worlds this episode, and we weren't sure with the timing of things if we could actually get the episode recorded before the upload time on Monday, but because of the time zone difference in Japan, we're able to do that. So we're just going to 31 comes before 30, and this podcast is brought to you as usual by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 Types. Why don't you say hello?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
So we'll just jump into things because we've got a few different things we'd like to talk about. We'll see how much of this we actually get through. So we want to talk about live for a few minutes. People might not want to hear about live. It's been another rough week for live, I would say. Not the worst week for live, but a worse week they've had in a while. So Obsidian, there was an update this week that came out on the Tuesday to get ready for Obsidian Flames. Obsidian Flames.
Flidian's same.
Exactly. Well, that might be how it appeared in Pokemon Live. But yeah, Obsidian Flames came out in the game, and then that Thursday, and it started Thursday, depending on what your time zone is, sometime on Thursday. And then within an hour or so, I think you couldn't get matches in Live, right? You had problems with that, correct?
Yeah, I think it was I'd say around 50-50 if you could find matches. I was recording videos and I was having a really hard time. I was super frustrated. I did some live streaming. It was really bad because live just wasn't working at all. You could build decks, which is working as well as it usually does, which is okay, I guess.
Yeah. Deck builder's not great.
Yeah, and then you couldn't find matches super easily. And then a lot of the other glitches, for example, the white box of doom that shows up when you, I don't know, it's the rewards and it's just nothing, and then the game glitches and then some shit double pairs you. And by the way, don't try to go into if the box, that white box appears that says you got rewards but nothing appears. When you're trying to start a game, don't start another game. Wait till the game starts.
Is that why you keep pressing? That's how you double match.
Yeah. Now that if you press match and nothing happens, and you press it again, it's actually matching into multiple games. So you just need to wait.
I don't get that box. I do occasionally get the one for rewards that shows nothing, but it's only, for me, it pops up after a game.
Yeah, it can show different times.
I haven't had it going into a game myself, I don't think. So, yeah, I mean, there was a period there when I couldn't find any matches, and then it was slower for matches. So, and because now on the forums they approve a lot of the posts. I tried posting and nothing. It wouldn't show up. It wouldn't show up any comments from anybody about it because they weren't approving on, which is unfortunate, right? I'm sure a lot of people were having the problems, but it was kept quiet because of that. I ultimately sent a support ticket just because they need to know these problems are going on. Hopefully, it more people do that. Hopefully, moves it quicker. So anyway, it got sorted out eventually. They did put a notice that they knew the problem, and later that it was fixed, and I think it is fixed. I think it was just too many people using it with the new set coming out. Because it wasn't really, I don't think it was updated related to the update. At least not just that, because we didn't have issues on Tuesday. So, or maybe the new cards being in the game were causing some glitch. I don't know.
Yeah. And then this is since I've been playing, they have not gotten both of the ladder decks right. The first set was
Lugia Archaea was the Lugia deck.
No, the first one that I was in was Gardevoir, and that didn't work. I don't know if it works now. I think it does, but
at least mostly.
I'm not sure.
If not,
but mostly isn't really. There are two major. There's the one where it crashed the game, and the one where it wouldn't let you accelerate energy. Both which are pretty important. Then the next one was Ting Lu. That one also crashed the game. So I guess they're moving up. The new one, Toadstool, just doesn't work right. How it works is a bit confusing, but it doesn't work right. So
right, the damage calculation is wrong. As far as I know, I've never seen less damage than you're supposed to, but it's often more. It's a little unclear what it does. You're supposed to have energy attached to the bench. It seems like it counts the active sometimes, which you shouldn't do. And I think as long as you evolve a grass Pokemon, it counts it without grass energy on it, which it's not supposed to do. But I don't know, something's not quite right. So yeah, I'm wondering because this bug doesn't break. It's not the best deck in format, even with buff damage. I wonder how long it's going to take before they fix it, right? Because it's not crashing the game and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like they don't test anything though. Like, if they literally give you there are 2 cards that need to get worked right, and they've
Yeah.
never succeeded at that.
Right.
Which is pretty sad. Like, there's literally, like, 2 things you have to do right, and they're sometimes I get there could be complications,
Yeah.
um, but that's your job to fix their job's to fix the complications, and, like, I don't know, it seems like they don't test them, or maybe they test them, it doesn't work, they just post it anyway, um, and of course, there's a deadline, so, there will be times when you just can't fix stuff in time, which I get, but, they should, like, at least, like, kinda know what they're doing.
Yes, there should be some testing. It seems like there's not, and probably they just don't have the team. The developer team is too small, and I'm guessing they're just stretched to their maximum to just get it out, right? Get some code typed in and no
Yeah.
testing. Now they could open it up. They could have volunteers for some beta testing for these updates, and I think they'd find volunteers for that too. For a day or two before. But whatever they need to get things together. They haven't. I do want to mention. I've hopefully everyone's figured out by now. But the newest update was a little weird. You had to go back to the Pokemon Live installation page and click the download button, which I'm showing on my screen now, but for either Windows download or Mac download, depending what type of computer you have, and do that. The game didn't update itself automatically, which they did announce, but it still threw a lot of people off. So,
Yeah, it's very strange because you download the same thing that you already have downloaded, but you just do it again, like,
right.
replaces it. I don't I'm assuming it works right, but it's strange, though.
You're right. And some people did have to uninstall it.
Oh,
What
they did? Okay.
Yes, Pokemon said that some people might, and I heard reports of people that did have to do it. So, and hopefully you've got it working now. The other thing I just want to say in live, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but 151, which you talked about the trainers in the last episode, or no, in a future episode. I apologize that we recorded it, but we haven't uploaded it.
Yeah. We
Um,
can see the future. We're magic.
yes, but not the TCG, just the Pokemon TCG. 151's coming out in a few weeks, and the battle pass doesn't reset for that because that's a special expansion. So I think any cards you're gonna have to craft or buy packs in the store. So just if you're a budget player, save some resources for it because you're gonna want some of those cards, and it will make things a little more expensive in general.
Yeah. And then a few other things. I think the
Yeah.
biggest issue, there are a number of issues,
Hmm.
but one of the biggest is going to be is that they just don't communicate with the audience.
Yeah.
And then I think it's time we bring up Twin Leaf as well,
Okay.
run by Dan TTM and some other people, and they have not communicated either, which is really bad.
That's
Like
true.
it was. I understand like the idea had like a lots of hype, and then they just like stopped talking about it. They made a few changes,
Yeah.
um, but very few. So. And a lot of them are actually them like taking information away, which is kind of weird. So we'll see where that ends up if it ever ends up getting out. Right now, it looks like it's not gonna end up being a thing because like obviously it's gonna take time, but they've literally just been silent about it.
Yeah,
As
it's
far as
not
I know,
good.
I've had I've looked into it as much as I could, and essentially nothing's happened. So that's a bit unfortunate. But Live will possibly be adding an expanded. Um, and do you want to
Y-
talk about the new reveals? I think that now's a good time to talk about those.
The reveals from that were done at Worlds, you mean?
Yeah.
Is that with the new types of cards? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll just introduce it. So,
Okay.
at Worlds, there's a video. You can actually watch it. I think I did a video where I watched on my channel. You might have as well.
Yeah, it's like
Did
two and
you
a
not?
half minutes, I think, the video
And
itself.
you watched it on your channel or not?
Yes. Not no, not on my
Okay.
channel. I didn't do
Okay,
that.
but you can check that out. And it's about their Paradox Pokemon. So they are similar, very similar to Battle Styles. It looks like. I guess
Well,
they are either ancient or future Pokemon. They have little tags on them.
okay, hang
They're
on.
all
Because they talked about Paradox Pokemon and they talked about Ancient and Future, so the Ancient and Future are the Paradox Pokemon. Is that correct? They
uh,
never because there was no word said. They just showed text. So I wasn't sure that those are the Paradox Pokemon.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the Paradox Pokemon isn't exactly it's the mechanic as in Battle Style is a mechanic. Battle Styles
Yeah.
encompasses Rapid Fusion and Single Strike. Paradox encompasses Ancient and Future. Additionally, uh, Great Tusk and Iron Treads are also Paradox Pokemon, but they're not getting these as of now, we haven't seen reveals of them getting Paradox Pokemon. There are a number of ones that haven't gotten cards Paradox Pokemon yet. We only
Hmm.
saw 6. And in the
Right.
new DLC for the video game, if you've seen, I believe there are some new um, Paradox Pokemon. They're very strange. The one they just made like the neck longer, and then they turned like Raikou into a giraffe, and then I don't remember what the other one was. It might have been I don't know. It was maybe Cabalion, or it was one of the Swords of Justice. Um, and then yeah, so we got 6 here. Do you want to read them or should I read them?
Sure, I'll start. So these are on the ancient, like you said, it's similar to battle styles. With we had rapid and single first, which then makes me wonder later in the year will be a third type like they did with Fusion Strike. It's just a
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Rapid and Single Strike were mechanics in the video games, and Ancient and Future are mechanics in the are things in the video games. I don't know if mechanics is the right term, but then Fusion Strike, as far as I know, was not a thing in the video game, so it would
Huh.
not be crazy if they just introduced something new in the TCG.
Okay, so the first card I think here is Scream Tail. This is the ancient card or type or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I'll have you guess. Do you know name it? Do you know what Pokemon this is supposed to be like?
Jigglypuff. No.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Did you? You're
what?
so good.
Yeah, I know a couple Pokemon, and that happens to be one of them. So it's Screamtail. It has 2 attacks, highly underwhelming. Now, all of the ones that were revealed are basic
This
Pokemon.
one's okay.
Well, it does Slap does 30 for 1 energy, so I guess that's not bad for 1 energy on a single prize basic. Livable, searchable at 90 HP, and then Roaring Scream. This is the attack that's useful for 2 energy, Psychic Colorless. It does 20 to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So I guess you want to pair it with Gardevoir
Gardevoir.
EX because you got to get damage counters on. You can get 80 damage on it with Gardevoir. That's the most you can get on it anyway. And then you're doing 160, and you can hit the bench with it as well. So it goes,
Yeah,
I
and you
think
can
you,
buff HP with some other things. One of which we might talk about later.
okay. I mean, obviously, Charm of Courage is one thing, right? It's a
Yeah,
basic. But
Bravery Charm.
uh, exactly, it's what I said. So sometimes the internet confuses things when it goes out.
Yeah, yeah,
So let me kind of hit the ancient ones, if that's okay. Kind of break it up,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you can hit the future ones. So that was, I think, the first one. Let's see. I have Brute Bonnet, and
yeah. Do you know which one this one is?
no, why don't you go and tell us?
It's Amoonguss, everyone's favorite
Oh, it's a
sus
Moongus.
Pokemon.
Okay,
Yeah,
and ancient, and it's got the thing in the corner. Anyway, if you look, you can look it up
yeah.
if
They
you're
look
not
really
watching the
cool. I
video.
think they really look really cool. If you haven't seen them, check them out. They look awesome.
Yeah. So, and these are coming out in Paradox Rift, I think, by the way, right? Which has been announced as the next official set, I believe, for the world outside of
Uh,
Japan.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, not counting 151, which is a
yeah.
special set.
151 will
So
be next, then we'll get Paradox Shift.
yeah, so the ladder will reset for these, and we'll see what decks we get in the ladder, and we'll get packs and all that good stuff. So this one's got an attack and an ability. So the attack, this is a basic 120 HP, retreat cost of 3. It does Rampaging Hammer 120 for dark colorless, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So that attack is pretty underwhelming, I would say. But then it's got the ability Toxic Powder. Once during a turn, if this Pokemon has an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached, so we don't know what that is, but that is a tool for ancient Pokemon, I assume, that does something to boost
Yeah, well, it's
damage,
presumably it's a tool. It could
energy.
be an energy though.
Oh, that's true. It could be either. But so that lets us know it's something like these battle styles, right? Where you had the battle styles Pokemon, then you had battle style trainers and such, singular rapid strike, and then you have the trainers that go along with it, right? So it'll be something similar, and they had energies as well, including fusion strike, as you mentioned there. So, and then you may make both active Pokemon poison. So that's what the ability does. The abilities, I'm not sure how excited I am about this. Maybe there's a
I
deck
think
that
it's okay.
that
It
wants
gets
it.
it's kind of like free damage.
Mm,
Obviously, you poison yourself, but you can retreat out, and it's not that hard to do. Um,
right.
and then also one thing to say in the video game, there's an item or a tool. I don't know what they're called,
Hmm.
but it's called Booster Energy. So one, it's not good. Just it doesn't end with energy because presumably I don't think it's an energy. It could be an energy, but if it ends with energy, obviously you'd think it's an energy.
Right, but it's a capsule.
And yeah, and then what's an and booster energy capsule that's stuck on the end. But then
Yeah.
ancient means
Hmm.
that this one works with ancient. I believe in the video game they were both. the same. But then there's presumably going to be a future booster energy capsule, and I'm
Hmm.
assuming we'll just buff the stats in some way. But I could be wrong.
Right. Well, in like with the battle styles, rapid and single strike, like they had the mustard rapid and single, but most of the other trainers were not identical between the two, right?
No, but most of them had a lot. There were a number of parallels.
Right.
There
There's
were
a
the
parallel one.
stadiums. There
Right.
were the scrolls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll have something similar. So the card itself is, I'm not overly excited, but it lets us know a little bit of more information through that ability. And then let's see, and there was a alternate art. Is that? Oh no, well there's an EX Pokemon. I think they showed an alternate
Yeah.
art for it too, but you can check that out if you wish. Obviously, we're a podcast, so that's not the point. And then it's a basic EX here, dark type. Once again,
This is
238.
Roaring Moon EX.
Yes, Roaring Moon EX. And it's got 2 attacks. So let's see, frenzied gouging for dark colorless. Knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out in this way, this Pokemon does 200 damage to itself. So it's got 230 HP, so you're down to 30 HP. So you're obviously a very soft target. You're 10 more than Medicham V, though. So that at least is a
And
plus.
yeah,
What's
and you can also recover it with the tool, the
um,
um
Emergent Jelly?
emergency jelly. Yeah.
Yes, I knew I was wrong, but I knew I was close, and I figured
Yeah.
you'd pick me up there. So thank you, you did. So that's not bad. I was watching Wasi on his thing. He said, "Oh, maybe you can pull it off turn one with Dark Patch." And you do have Dark Patch, but you hitting 2 Dark Patches because that only accelerates one, and a switch card is highly unlikely. But
Yeah,
obviously,
there is that new item coming 151, I believe, that was like a coin flip. It accelerates,
yes.
I think,
Hmm.
which could be used.
Right. Now the lightning ones though, like Maridon and such that have electric generator, that's much better, right? One item gives you a decent chance of getting all your energy you need that turn. But but it's a strong attack, and also late game too would be really great to have it to close things out. To knock out any Pokemon is quite nice. And then Calamity Storm for again dark colorless does 100 damage. Plus you may discard a stadium in play. If you do, this attack does 120 more, so you're doing 220 for 3. And that's a good number too. You're
And
not.
these attacks are the same cost, which is interesting. That's
Mhm.
pretty rare. But that
Yes.
means that it's a bit versatile as well. Generally, obviously, you'd use Calamity Storm if you can get the KO with that.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'd possibly use Frenzied Gouging. So I think this one's like cool as well. It's
Hmm.
not. It doesn't scream new mechanic to me, but it's an interesting card.
Right. I mean, right. It really doesn't. Yeah, it's not a new mechanic. I mean, it's an ancient whatever trait or whatever it is.
Ancient trait's a different thing.
It's just ancient.
Yep.
Okay. Um,
Uh,
it's
and I'll
it's
go through the next ones
the
unless you
one
have
thing
anything
I'll
more to
say.
add.
Well, like as you said, the energy costs are the same, which is unusual. So it's really designed that both attacks are kind of potentially the number one attack. The one thing is if you've been damaged already by 30 or more damage and you do frenzied gouging, you will knock yourself out. It's not reduce your HP till it's 30, but you do 200 damage to itself.
Yeah.
So if you're syncing up against it, if you can get 30 damage on it, they will knock themselves out if they use the attack.
Yeah. So that's
Yep, go.
cool.
Yep. Hmm.
And let's see. So I'll look at the future ones. And I'm not going to go too in detail on them, but so we got Iron Bundle, which is like Delibird. Its ability here, it has 100 HP, Water, Lightning Weak, all that good stuff.
Yep.
But then its ability here, Hyper Blower. Once during a turn, if this Pokemon is on the bench, you may switch out your opponent's active to the bench, send it to the bench, and they choose the new active. So it's kind of like rope, and then
Hmm.
discard Iron Bundle from your discard or from the bench. So that's nice because it gets itself out of play.
Yeah. It's similar
And I don't
to
think
the Fion from the theme deck, right?
yeah, it's
But
very
that
similar
went
to
into
that.
the deck, which was actually slightly better. But
Yeah.
and this is 100 HP, so you can't recover it with Rescue Carry, which would be nice
Yeah, you're saying
too.
all the things I said in my video earlier.
I and
But yeah.
I
Um
apologize, but
no, you're just that good.
and you're that good too. Obviously, we're both that good. Yeah, it's a very
And
nice
I'll
card.
yeah,
Did you?
I'll skip the attack here. It's whatever. Um I don't think we just spent too long on these.
No, I
Then we
mean,
have Iron.
well, I'll just say Iron Bundle's a card that can go in a lot of decks as like a one of or something, right? Just for that ability, you just
Yeah,
leave it on, and you can put it on the bench and wait till you need it. So it's quite nice.
yeah, and without Scoop of Net not needing to take up the bench space, I think is really nice. Because a card like Hawlucha right now is, like compared to
Yeah,
Galarian Zigzagoon saw a lot of play in a wide variety of decks. And
right,
Hawlucha has not. Debatably, its ability is worse, but I'm not so sure about that. But the big issue is that you just can't get it out of play.
right. I mean, right. You have to use a support if you want to get out of play, I think, and that's
Yeah,
pretty
and people
much.
do that sometimes, but it hurts.
Yeah, I mean that shows how difficult the situation is.
Yeah. And then next one here is Iron Moth, which is the Volcarona future form. So both Donphan and Volcarona have both past and future forms. Donphan got the two EXs, Iron Treads and Great Tusk.
Mhm.
Those were kind of the mascots of the Paradox Pokemon. But then Iron Moth, there is no I think it might be Slitherwing is the past form, and that we don't have a card for yet,
Okay.
but presumably we'll get it. But then it's interesting one here, Thermal Reactor. When this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active, you may move Fire Energy to it. Then its attack here is not that good, so I think Iron Moth's like pretty much a throwaway Pokemon, unfortunately, because its ability is like the same as Armouge as well, so it's kind of redundant there.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's some reason to get energy on this, so you can, and then you Thornton to something else. But I mean, that seems pretty awkward. There's probably better options
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we have the EX, the future EX Iron Valiant here EX.
Yeah.
Which is the one that's based off of two Pokemon. Arguably, Slitherwing's also based off of two Pokemon, but
Okay.
My Valiant, based on Gardevoir Gallade, it's an EX, 220 HP. Its ability, I don't know how to say this. I said it's Tachyon Bits.
I think
That
so.
doesn't, Tachyon Bits? Okay. Um, and then its ability says when you move this from the bench to the active, put two damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. This is really good. It does have two retreat, which means it's a tiny
Yeah.
bit awkward, but and it does 220 for three, which is whatever. But this is amazing. Like Inteleon, Chilliwain Inteleon was pretty all right. It didn't see play just on its
Yeah.
own, but it was a great addition to the engine. Um, I think this is very strong.
I mean, the fact though that it's the moving to the active right from the bench, and that's awkward. So I I'm not sure how much it's going to be actually useful unless there's, is there going to be a stadium like with the Rapid Strike to help give you some free switching or something? Otherwise, if you have to have a switch card in hand every turn, it's going to be awkward. I'm not going to see it in, I don't think I see it very often personally.
I think it could be good in Lost Zone because it gets extra damage into play, and then also it does you can attack with it with if you're playing like Radiant Greninja and Sableye, you can do more Psyche Energies to attack. I think it's okay. It's not amazing,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of switch there.
the attack's okay. If there's something to help with the switching, then I think it becomes even better. That's my where I'm
Yeah.
at right now.
It's a great like if you could give it for your treat, it's an amazing pivot, right? So, um,
Right, and don't forget expanded. You can scoop up net it too as well. So
yeah, that's quite good. At that point, you could just play Hawlucha as well. It depends what you're doing.
right
Yeah.
here you can hit the active, and it's on one Pokemon. Halogia hits two and not the active, right? 10 to 2.
Yeah.
So it's depending what you need.
It's
Yeah.
better, probably. And then there are a few other cards that got revealed. So there are some articles on PokeBeach. I think you might be on PokeBeach, but there's one. I think it talks about. Yeah, there are a few cards. I think you. I don't think you've seen these cards, right? Have you seen any
No,
of them?
no. So go ahead.
So let's see. There's the first one about Terra Garchomp. The Garchomp EX, its first attack is 160 for one fighting, and then you can accelerate. So just look at it. Look at the first attack and read it out for everyone.
Now you have to go find that. I have to go find the article. You didn't tell
The
me to get.
Garchomp one.
What's the
Terra
what's
Garchomp.
is that on
It's right there. It's
what's
the row below.
is it? Oh, I didn't think it was on here.
Yeah, the
What row
Terra
below?
Garchomp, Bombardier, and
You mean you want
the
me to
Terra.
click? No. You want me to click one of these links to what? Because
Yeah,
then that goes to the A specs next. But is it the ancient Rowan future Flash set? Is that what I'm supposed to click on?
yeah. Or do you want to talk about A-Specs? I guess we should talk about A-Specs.
I mean, I just
I'll
okay.
talk about A-Specs. So A-Specs are returning. If you don't know, they are, well, they were item cards, but you could only play one A-Spec in your deck, kind of like Radiant Pokemon.
Hmm.
Um, they're returning, but we don't know how they're returning. They might, I'm presumably they're not just going to be items, because they could also be tools, but now tools aren't items anymore. So we're getting them back. I don't know if we're getting reprints. We essentially know nothing about it.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Well, we know A specs from before, and we assume the mechanics the same, right? A specs, you can only.
But in some ways, they're definitely different because of the tool and item change. They can't be like before they were all items, and now they're not all going to be items. So
Well,
they could be items. Well, they could all be items and no tools.
right. I don't.
Um,
Right. Before there's a mixture of there were some were tools, some were items, and tools were items, but none of them were
but I think we're
supporters.
going to get
None of them were
a
stadiums. They were
stadium.
only trainers. Although the one thing to tie up mentioning live too with this is in live the A specs you had to find them under Pokemon. They did fix them to put them under trainers,
Trainers.
which is good. And maybe because they got some attention because they were coming back. I don't know.
Yeah, they might. They're probably working on them now. I guess. Maybe, hopefully, probably
Yeah,
not actually, but
at least
maybe.
thinking about how to do it. But the important thing, and which I'm pretty sure is not
Yeah, they're like
changing.
they just don't work at all. We need to do something.
All right, let's get to the thing that I think actually matters for A specs because not everyone knows what A specs are, right? You think
Well, you can play one of them. They're
you can
are
only
you gonna
play
say
one
computers?
in your deck. You can
Yeah,
only
I said that.
did you? But
I
only one
did.
A spec in total, right? Unlike the Radiant
Yeah.
Pokemon, you can only. It's kind of like
No,
the
they are like Radiant.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like the Radiant Pokemon, only one in total A spec. So it's like that. And and if you remember the A specs before, there were two really super strong A specs that were used most of the time, and the others are usually forgotten. It may be something similar. I don't. I'm assuming they won't give something as busted as computer search is in the game, but we'll find out.
Yeah, or they'll bring the other ones up to that level.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I prefer it if there's a legitimate choice of what people want to play rather than one being used almost all the time. It's just less
Yeah, definitely.
interesting.
With Radiant, it's not particularly close.
Right, it's Radiant Greninja or maybe Radiant Charizard, and then a few others
Yeah.
in niche situations. Yeah.
Yep. But so I'll read. So there's an article with this Terra Garchomp EX, Terra
Yep, I found
Frostlass
that.
EX.
Hmm.
So the Terra Garchomp, just read the first attack there. The second attack's not that good.
All right, so for one fighting, a Hydrolander, 160 damage, attach up to 3 fighting energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. So that,
And this is a stage 2 water EX, by the way. Garchomp EX.
right. So the other Pokemon evolves from our waters, or no,
No,
they're fighting.
they'd
They're
be fighting,
fighting.
yeah.
So it's in
Yeah,
a
they're right
fighting
above it.
deck, really. But it gives you the different types. So that's 160 for one energy, super good. Is pretty good anyway. And then attach 3 energies to your any way you like to your bench is very good too. It doesn't have to go on one. So that's a very nice attack. It's a stage 2. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, but I just figured that one is probably the strongest of all of them.
Hmm.
And then let's see, there's the and then there's this other one. There's the TMs, the technical machines. So I think you'd be very interested in those as well.
Okay, what do we have? We have 2 of these. So
Um,
let's see.
yep.
Te- Technical Machine Energy Turbo, which is these are both tools. Attach this card when you Pokemon play. That Pokemon can use this card's attack instead of its own. So, and then you discard this card at the end of your turn. So that means is that only if you use the attack, or you always discard it at the
No,
end of your turn?
you always discard it, I believe.
Okay, that's yeah, because it's not an effect of the attack. It's at this top of the text above the attack.
Yep.
So this first attack for one colorless energy, search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to your bench Pokemon any way you would like.
That's pretty solid, I
It
think.
is. I mean, you're using up your attack for the turn, and and you need a tool to
It's
pull
like
it off.
Arceus, right? It's like Arceus.
It's
I think
Arceus, except
Arvin,
it's one less energy and it's not doing any
but it's
damage.
cheaper. It's cheap. Well, Arceus V though, like it's
Uh,
cheaper and it's you can put
yeah.
this in anything. I think Arvin might
Okay.
start to get good. And this is interesting, but I think, and then look at the next one,
Okay. I
which is
mean,
also interesting.
it's interesting. I don't know how good it will be in general. But okay, so let's see. So in this next one, Technical Machine Sneak Attack. All right, sounding interesting here. So for 3 colorless, Sneak Attack. This attack does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon with any damage counters on it. It's
Again,
okay.
it's okay. It's
Yeah,
techable.
I mean,
It's
you have
probably
to have
worse.
3 energy, which you're not always going to want to have. They're any type of energy. So with both of these tools, it can go on any Pokemon, right? There's not a restriction to stage or type or anything. I don't believe.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes them really interesting
And the
to me.
yeah, and the costs are colorless, so these are considerations for any deck to get. Like the scrolls, but those were only for Rapid Strike, so it's kind of like that, but for any Pokemon you want. So yeah, I mean it's nice having that option.
Yeah. And then there's another article. I'll just read the tool though. This is in the article about Bombardier EX and some other stuff. But there's a Pokemon tool here called Gorgeous Mantle.
Uh huh.
Again, it kind of looks like Cape of Toughness. There's those cards that are capes, but they look like
Hmm.
hats,
Okay.
right? Um,
Yeah, cape. It didn't look like a cape. Yes,
yeah. Are you seeing it right now? It's like a blue
I am not.
cape. Okay.
No,
Well,
I
it looks
because
like a
I don't
hat,
know where
I
the
think.
article is. So
It's just right next to it.
just we're a
Okay.
podcast too, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we should say it
Okay.
with show them with words.
Yeah. So if so it has to be attached to a non-rule box. It can be attached to a rule box, but won't do anything. But then
Hmm.
it says you get 100 more HP. And this can be attached to any non-rule box like one, which is insane. Except obviously there's a downside. And when it gets KO'd, your opponent takes one more prize card.
Wow.
So
Okay.
essentially, it's like the reverse of like Island Challenge Amulet or Hero's Medallion, turn which essentially turned a rule box into a non-rule box. This turns a non-rule box into a rule box, which is interesting.
Right. I mean, the
So
old cards reduced the HP by 100, right? And then you gave up one
yeah,
less prize. So it's
yes,
kind
this
of the
is the reverse.
exact opposite. Can't be on a rule box, but it kind of makes it into a rule box. Um, hmm. Okay.
This
So
is it's a weird card, but I think it's a fun card as well.
yeah, so that's interesting to think about. What non-rule box? Obviously, going to want on something that's tanky to start with to make it super tanky, I assume.
Yeah, I think so. You could do Orthworm to give
Hmm.
it up to 330 HP, and that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Whalelord as well to give it up to 330 HP. Um,
Right. It
I
could
think
go.
this is a fun one.
Yeah, and stage two is obviously evolutions that could go on, and we do have Pidgeot EX, so that may make evolution decks a little more viable. So, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and also I was thinking you could stick this on a there's like the the Screamtail, which is a basic single prizer that has like 90 HP, but then you can buff up to 190 to do a massive amount of snipe there. And then also you could stick this on actually an evolution, like say, or like a pre-evolution like
Hmm.
Ralts or Curlia, and then they evolve that into Gardevoir EX. Then the tool doesn't do anything, but it means that your Ralts and Curlia will survive until you get to the Gardevoir EX, which is an interesting concept. I don't know if it would be good.
Right, and like the card we mentioned earlier, like with Gardevoir decks, you can put it on your non-rule box, including what like the Gallade or something,
Yeah,
and
or Gardevoir itself.
right, Gardevoir, and you could pile on the energies, right, and do big damage with that. Or what's it, the Drifloon or whatever that does that too, and that new
Yeah.
Pokemon, things like that, can really pile
But
up
then they
the
will go
damage.
down for 2 prizes, which isn't great, because
Cool.
at that point, you could just use, like, Zacian V, so
Right, right, and because you're piling up the damage, your Pokemon, your HP is actually less when your turn ends.
yeah. But I think that those were some interesting
Hmm.
tools to talk about.
Yep.
That's about it for new card reveals. The next Worlds, I'll just say this, is
Okay.
gonna be in Honolulu,
Yes.
so that's interesting. I let's see, I'm looking at this list, um, and it's been in Kona, Hawaii. I don't know where that is.
It's
Um,
been on Hawaii before, but not there.
Yeah, I've been there 3 times. Well, it's not there this year. I thought it was at Honolulu before, but apparently not. But that's cool, I
Okay.
suppose. Obviously, it's a bit awkward for people to get to,
It makes it probably
even in the
expensive for
States.
almost everybody in the world, I suspect.
Yeah, but
So,
it's equal. It's relatively equal. So that's
r-
fine.
right. Because great, a lot of times it makes it's unsurprising it's back in North America, either the U.S. or
Yeah,
Canada, because it obviously been there a lot. It's not been there for 2 years, so it seemed likely to swing back here. Unless they actually were going to take it to Latin America and hit the fourth major region, but that's harder for a lot of
yeah.
people. So that not surprising they didn't want to go there.
Yeah, and then the Worlds promo is also different this year. It's I don't remember what it
Yep.
is, but it's not
No.
Champions Festival. It like decreases retreat of Psyduck or something. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So they're clearly trying to make it bad. That's what they're trying to do with Champions Festival, and then it became almost playable, or it became
Right.
playable. Or viable, I should say, not playable because you can't really get it. But and then so they decided to make it worse again, which is so it is now very clear that they want the card to be bad, which is understandable. But arguably, it should just be like a reprint of a card, an alternate art.
I would like that. I mean, I think it would still have value for collectors because that should be what it is. It shouldn't, to me, people that qualify worlds, that's good. You made the effort. They're entitled to reward, but I think they shouldn't get an actual gameplay advantage, which is kind of what happens. They get a card that the rest of the world doesn't get to play. You can't really get them, or Pokemon should sell them, and you
Yeah,
can't craft them on live and such. So, or they just or they should just be non-playable cards, just
yeah.
collectibles. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Uh,
they've pulled back to something less useful, which makes sense.
yeah. Now you want to go over the big thing,
Worlds.
your gloating moment as well.
Well, we that implies that I win, but we don't know, right? The audience doesn't know what happened.
Don't know.
Well, no, actually, they do know because everyone. I think was it the last episode we uploaded? I'm not sure. The one before we did a draft for worlds for the of decks that we thought we would win. Total of 20 decks and all 10 each. And I'm sure everyone that listened to that took notes, wrote down our choices. They've now checked the world's results that are out, and they know who won. But for the one or two people that didn't do that, we want to let them know, right? So right now, the top 16 decks are out. We're scoring off the top eight,
Yeah, which is Top Cut.
right, which is the top cut. The decks aren't overly exciting, I would say. Do you want to
Well,
talk
we don't
about?
have the list. We have the list of the top two. I looked at the first place list. So I'll say one, Mew VMAX one. Mew
Yes.
VMAX with Meloetta.
Yeah.
And then second
Fusion
place,
Mew or yeah.
yeah, it was Gardevoir. I took a glance at this list and it looked pretty generic as well.
Hmm.
A few cards, like copies of things that were a bit off normal, but pretty normal here.
Yeah.
And then should I just go down the list of how what went?
Well, do we want to work through our results or talk about some of the decks that didn't not in top eight?
I think we should just talk about. I think let's talk about how we did in our draft.
Okay, so let's talk about the 5 through 8 decks, place decks, because we get 1 point for decks that finish there, and then more points as it did better. So in the 5 through 8 category, we have a Fusion Mew deck.
And I think let's say the players. So I'll attempt to say the
Yes.
players. So fifth place, fifth. Although I don't really know if the order doesn't matter. 5 through 8, same
In
prizes.
terms of for us, yes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and for them as well. I believe in terms of prizes, I believe it is the same. I could be wrong on
It
that
could
though.
be. I don't know.
But Dionysus Lee, yeah, running Fusion Mew, which you had. Which
Yes,
you
I
drafted.
had Fusion Mew, which was good. There was a lot of Mew showed up in the top 16, more than I would have expected, and a lot
Or
less
top 8
Arceus.
specifically top 8.
But even top 16, which we see, right? It showed up decently, and in top 8
Yeah.
particular, and Arceus really didn't show up much at all. That's
I don't see any Arceus here.
I don't not in top 8, and I don't think even was there top 16.
Doesn't
No,
look like
we
it,
don't have
but we
the
don't know the lists.
right.
I
Someone might
imagine I
have
wouldn't be shocked if the Chien Pao list ran an Arceus,
right. Someone might have
stuff like that.
teched in Arceus, but I thought Arceus was well positioned to do well. I got to
Yeah, I
say,
think it was. I think people just didn't play it as much.
yeah. So
Maybe I could be wrong though. And then 6 we got Victor Manuel Garcia Montez. Is that
mhm,
it? That could be.
could be. Yep.
Running Gardevoir. So
Yep.
we don't know what Gardevoir list it is, but presumably it doesn't play Mewtwo. If it does, well, I got Gardevoir.
Right.
So
None of us had Mewtwo.
Gardevoir, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Mewtwo v
Uh,
Union. Correct. That's what you mean by that.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's a point for me and a point for you at this point.
yeah. And then next is Sochi Sato, I think.
Hmm.
So that's they played Lost Zone Box, which is my deck.
Right.
Again, it's a bit confusing how we need to see the list, but that I got that deck. In my opinion, it was the best deck.
Now the one
It is
thing.
a hard,
Go on.
no, you can. I would say it's a little hard to play, but I mean these are the best players in the world, or some of the best,
Right.
not necessarily the best, because. But
Well, I mean, if you finish top 8 at Worlds, you're certainly one of the best, at
you're
least at the
good. But
moment.
I mean,
You're a very good player.
most of the players just play online, so like it doesn't matter as much. Like you do need like $10,000 a year to just like spend on whatever, be able to
You need
play.
money and you need
You
the
get to
time to
Worlds.
and the time to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing is, which yes, you get the point for that because you pick Lost Zone Box. We don't have the list though, and Limitless for the IRL decks classifies them differently. Um, I the Arc Lost Zone Charizard is a different deck at least for online tournaments, and I don't know if it played a Charizard or not. So, but we're giving you the point here.
Yeah, and then the next one here, Pang Kai Hing played Giratina Lost Box, which was your pick as well. So we're at 2-2.
Right. So we're 2-2 after right the first round of Top Cut. So we did get points for every deck. So but we took 20 decks altogether. So there was a good chance
Yeah.
it would have to be a really rogue deck for it.
Well, ninth wasn't. I don't think either of us picked the ninth place deck.
No, I
Oh no,
did.
you did.
I
You did.
picked,
Oh, I'm a hater.
and in fact, I was so good on top of things. I said Palkia would be the ninth best deck overall, and it finished ninth place. So I mean,
You
does
are very impressed. Wait, I thought you said that after Palkia finished ninth. Oh wait, no, you chose it ninth.
well, I chose it 14th in our draft because the alternating between us. But on my list of, I listed 20 decks. I
Ah,
ranked them, and it was ninth. I thought
very
overall.
impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was a strong deck. Look, I thought there were 8 decks that would see the most play. I thought this is the strongest of the decks outside of the big eight to me, and I'm pleased to see it finish there. And I
Yeah,
do
and I've
think it's
seen and
strong.
it plays like Chun Pao. It's not Excalibur. I'm sure many of you have seen the Palkia
Hmm.
deck. It like popped off
Yeah.
recently. I for some reason. Yeah. Okay. I'll move on to the third and fourth.
Right.
So we have Michael Premawat who played Giratina Lost Zone, which is your deck. So you get 2 points for that. 2 points for top
Hmm.
four. And then Azul
Yes.
Garcia Griego, who we're going to talk about a little more later, I think, finished and tied for third, fourth place here with Fusion Strike Mew VMAX. You get 2 more points for that.
Yeah. So now
Um,
I'm racking it up now. 6 points to 2 points for you going into the final match, which occurred on Sunday. If we were following along with things. Um,
I think it was on Saturday. I think.
no, I'm
I think
pretty
it was in
sure.
Japan. It was on Saturday.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Sunday because I think the date line
Sure.
is I'm fairly sure
Maybe.
it,
Maybe.
it,
I
it
don't know.
happened in North America. It happened when you were probably sleeping on Saturday night. That's
Yeah.
when it was
Um,
out there. And they do the final match round for all of the different games, all three groups of the TCG as well as the video game and Go and there's a fourth one, right?
it might be
Oh, and
Unite. I think.
Unite.
I think it was Unite.
Yeah, I assume they had a final. I'm not sure if that was a showcase or an actual competition, but
Yeah.
yeah. So so I'm up.
So second place here. Yeah,
But
you're
well,
up.
wait. So the question is, I'm up 6-2. Um, we both have we picked the top two decks between us, and I picked one, and you picked the other. People already know I picked Fusion Strike Mew, and people already know you picked Gardevoir. So if and I have this. This is the question I'm going to pose to you. So if Mew wins, I'm ahead, and I pick Mew, so I would just win in a route if that's the case.
Yeah.
But if Gardevoir wins, then we end up tied for points. We'd end up tied, I think, at whatever it is, 10-10 each or something. Yeah, I
Yeah. So
think.
then well the tiebreaker will
But
be the 10th place deck.
not the ninth place deck, of
No, not the
course.
ninth place deck. That'd be crazy. No.
Well,
So
probably the
yes.
winning deck would be the tiebreaker, and you'd get the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
So yeah. No. So yeah.
But here's the thing. This is the question I really want to ask you, though. That people want to know. You said if Gardevoir wins the Worlds, you would eat the deck, the
Yeah.
IRL physical deck.
I said I
So
was
before
confident
this
that it would win.
happened, did you want Gardevoir to win so you would win our competition, or did you want Mew to win so you didn't have to win Gardevoir?
Yeah, I kind of
Gardevoir.
wanted you to win. I kind of wanted you to win.
Okay.
Yeah. So and it did. Yeah, Mew
And you
won.
got your wish. Mew won.
Yeah.
So
Played by
Tord
Vance Kelly.
came up short.
Yeah, Tord Rekliv played Gardevoir, and we actually have the list. They're boring. Nothing, not like
They're pretty
awful boring,
straightforward
but
lists, is what I
yeah.
would say, right? And they were very good
Yeah.
lists. So I mean, there's no criticism
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
And
Um,
Vance Kelly won. Yep, with Fusion Mew.
yeah. And so I lost.
So yep, you
This
lost.
thing.
I 14-6 is the final score, so it wasn't even close.
I mean, that you get like a lot of points for the first place deck.
Well, as I
So,
should. I mean, are you
yeah,
complaining
no,
about the structure now? Is that what where we're
no,
at?
no, no, it's fair. I don't
Yes.
think any structure would have saved me, but maybe.
No. I
Anyway,
mean,
so
right. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
the
so
fact Muka.
you had more decks in the thing.
I mean, oh, in the top eight.
You had
Yeah. I
5 out
mean,
of the top 3.
yeah. I mean, Fusion Mew was three of the top eight in one. So that put me in just by that fact alone. I would almost had it locked up with that. So
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So if I watched a little bit of the end of it, you can find it online on YouTube and replay it. It came in. They were 1-1 in the going to the last match, and time ran out, which makes sense. Whatever I don't remember what the time limit is if they get more for final day or not, but. And then it comes down to who after you finish the current turn, and then you get three more turns, right? Plus three turns. And then at the end of that, it's who's ahead. If one person wins the game by that point, obviously you win the game, but then otherwise it's a matter of who's ahead in prizes. And that's what it came down to. Tord was kind of one card off in his one turn. He was one card off from knocking out a UV Max. And since he's a two prize deck, he would have won because they were tied on prizes going into, I think, Tord's had the second to last turn. So he only got a single prizer knocked out, and he had to have, unfortunately, a Zacian V benched, and that cost him the game and the World
Yeah.
Championship.
So,
So,
um, and Tordes, as he used to always finish like fourth at events. Now he's moved up to second in a few events, so
yes.
pretty good. But yeah, I always get hyped for the World Championship, and then I like watch a few games, and then I get sad, and then I'm sad again. So it was a bit underwhelming. I was hoping the decks would be a bit cooler, but then let's take a look at the rest of the top 16. We see,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read the decks out. We see Palkia.
Well, the Mew deck did play Box of Disaster, so that's
It
nice.
did.
It
Whoa,
did.
it's crazy.
Well, obviously
Yeah, that's
partly
fine.
partly for the Mew matchup, probably. I mean, for the Gardevoir matchup too, right? Because then you put 8 damage counters on the opponent's attacker, depending where it's
And then
at.
they die, right?
It would knock it would, especially if they have a Zacian V. Boom, they'd give up two prizes probably.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a solid tech.
yeah,
It's an interesting. I mean, he's playing decks though.
yeah. So
But
go.
it's fine.
So you want to talk about the other decks, right?
Yes. So rest of the top 16, we had Palkia.
Which I picked.
Um, yeah, Gardevoir, which I picked. We have Ursula and Teleon
Teleander,
True.
which I picked.
Yep. Then Lugia Archeops.
Which I picked,
I
right?
don't.
I picked
Yeah,
single
I
strike.
assume it's single strike. I believe it is, but
Probably right. Doesn't say here,
I'm not
but
sure.
neither of us picked the colorless build. I picked the single strike build.
Yeah, Chin Palbeck's Caliber, which I picked,
Yep.
which I don't think was played as much. I think it's very good. I think people sort of played it more. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's not winning tournaments," but like it wasn't allowed in tournaments, so obviously it wasn't winning. And then Lost Zone was the 14 and 15. I'm interested in seeing the Lost Zone decks. They might be interesting. I think of all
Right.
decks, they're the most likely to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then 16 is Fusion Strike Mew again.
Yep. So I mean,
So
nothing too surprising. And well, the decks
no,
that did well weren't surprising. The thing that surprises me is
no Arcs.
no Arceus at all in the top 16, and
Yeah,
that
that's pretty crazy. I feel like it's a really good. Maybe people didn't play it. I'd like to see a distribution of decks. I saw on day one, and it was like what you'd expect. And I think day two as
yeah.
well. There's some Arceus. There was some like Lost Zone,
Mm-hmm.
Gardevoir, all that stuff. But that was fine. Oh, and then there was some drama, as there always is. I believe a bunch of people were disqualified, but I think it was in the video game,
Oh.
uh, because of like you can like cheat like using like illegal teams. So obviously in the video game, like
Mhm.
or in the TCG you can't play fake cards, right? Like you'd obviously get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Um,
You'd
but
hope
you can
so.
yeah. Yeah, maybe you won't. But that's not really a thing that happens as far as I know anyways. But
No.
in the video game, you can have like fake Pokemon, kinda or
Okay.
something. Like they can be like modified in some way. And you won't necessarily know that they're modified
Huh.
because you get like I think you buy Pokemon for the video game or you might like trade. I don't know how it works.
Okay.
But I think a bunch of people. I heard I heard a few different sources. I know there was one big one on the day one. I think it might have been someone said 5 people though. I don't know if that's true. That's obviously a bunch. Um, but I think I don't know, like it's a thing in the Pokemon and the video game community. I don't know too much about it, but
Because
it's awkward to
so,
deal with.
you might not know it, and we'll keep this brief. But so in the video game, you have as you play with the Pokemon, the stats improve, right? So is there some way that they're paying money to upgrade them rather than playing it or something like that?
Well, no, you
Or-
don't like play the game to collect all the Pokemon.
Okay,
I don't know how it works. Yeah, I haven't.
you don't
You and I
know.
have only played it very little.
Yeah.
I know you. There are something called rental teams, which might be what people use.
Hmm.
But you don't catch all the Pokemon. You
Okay.
can catch the Pokemon, but you don't have to. But then if you don't catch them, you get them from somewhere else, and you don't know what the other person's done. To those Pokemon, they
Okay.
say what they've done, but there's some things that aren't allowed, for
Hmm.
whatever reason.
Okay. I
Um,
guess with the
and so that,
upgrading process, right? I guess this must
yeah.
have to do with. Okay.
Um,
All right. So, but so no,
Anyways,
so no, we don't know
yeah.
of any problems with the TCG from our standpoint.
No, I'm not sure. I didn't really pay that much
No.
attention, but nothing huge, I'm assuming. But you never
If it
know.
was huge, we would have heard it. But stuff may come out this next week. You never know. People like to complain about stuff, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
people definitely do. And then let's see anything else. Oh, there's also the fantasy draft thing.
Right.
So we didn't win, I'm assuming. So we both chose Arceus. So I want to
Yeah.
see what the best picks would have been. Um, so I have it open. The first thing is a V star, and I'm assuming the V star you'd want would be Giratina, right? Yeah,
Um.
that's definitely the V star you'd want. That's the only V star in the top eight. I believe it's just top
It's
eight.
just top eight, right?
Let me double. I'm gonna look at the thing. It says yeah, just top eight. So yeah, you definitely choose
Yeah,
Giratina.
Giratina, which showed up what just yeah, in two decks at least. There's two
Yeah,
Giratina Lost Zone decks, and probably
and
wasn't
then for
teched in anything.
V Max, it'd definitely be Mew V Max.
Yes,
Um,
right, which is in three of the top 10 decks, so very good there.
Yep. And then I don't actually know what options there are to choose for all these. But
Right.
Radiant, I'm assuming Radiant Greninja is still the right one. As
I
it probably
assume
sees playing
so
Gardevoir and Lost Zone. The EX would be Gardevoir. Um,
because there's two
Definitely.
Gardevoir
Uh,
lists.
Unless there's some like crazy, like you said, Squawkabilly. I don't think people played Squawkabilly, but it's
Right,
possible.
Squawkabilly showed up, or right. I probably yeah, it probably is what you said,
Gardevoir, yeah.
Gardevoir. Yeah.
Um, and then V. I don't really know how Pokemon the V thing works. I don't know if it has to do with the number of things in it or just if they played it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I chose like Lumineon. I think
Which you still might
like
have.
yeah, it might have been Lumineon. It
Well,
could have been, but if it's in the count, it would be probably Genesect, right?
I don't remember if Genesect was a choice or not, but
Yeah, I don't remember what the choices were. I think Genesect might have been,
so Genesect
but
was in three decks, obviously,
yeah, so it'd probably be yeah
and
Genesect,
no others.
Lumineon. It could have been Lumineon, could have been one of those two. I don't remember what the choices were.
Right.
And then the last one, I don't really remember what the choices were.
Oh, the
I
other category, right? Which
think
Manaphy was one.
Meloetta was a choice.
I think it
But
might
I
have
think
been
I chose Manaphy.
Manaphy, which we both chose Manaphy. We don't know about that one. She
So
probably
yeah,
showed
like
up in
toward the second place deck played Manaphy. I'm assuming most more played Manaphy than played Meloetta, but if it's based on counts, Meloetta, Comfy if it's based on counts as well, but I don't think it is.
there was
So
just what
probably Manaphy's the pick.
how many we had? We had
There are three lost
three
on deck.
lost some decks, so they all played Comfy. There were three Mew decks,
Yeah,
so they all played Meloetta. I assume they were all they're all
they
Fusion
do.
Mew
Yeah, it
decks.
says they're all Fusion Mew.
Um,
So
and yeah, so those were either of those were solid choices.
yeah. And then we can't see the video game ones. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but we don't really know anyways. So
Right. So yeah, so we did not win the fantasy team contest, but
yeah.
and
And that it was interesting though. I guess I feel like it. I think it's a really cool idea. And I think now there's
the
one
fantasy
last
draft.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully
But
they keep doing that.
yeah. And then is there anything else you want to talk about? Because I have one last topic.
I mean, did you want to talk about what Sander did or no?
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. Yeah. So
Well, this is the
Sander.
first thing from Sander. If you, I looked at his Twitter because I wanted to see what he played because it's always interesting. He didn't do that great. He went
I
four
mean,
two
four
and
two and two
two
is
is
that's
pretty
pretty
solid.
good.
But then what he did
It's not
do,
like all the best, but
right? He said he and his brother got food poisoning. I think it was they got sick. I think they said ate something bad. So just be careful, right? Don't make yourself sick. That
yeah, especially in other countries, they have different food standards, and just like the stomachs are used to different things.
right. You're
You
not
you
used
can
to the
get food
bacteria
poisoning.
and whatnot they have in their foods and waters sometimes. And if you're going to get sick playing a deck like Sander, a control deck that you're probably going long games with lots of decisions, that's a bad deck to have.
No, so he's trying to get in the minds of think like his opponents and get sick.
Nice. That's how they feel, right? See, if you're going to get sick, bring Mew, right? Or a deck like that that's a little more straightforward, probably.
Yeah.
It's still look, it's still not easy. I'm not insulting it, but you know,
I think it's pretty decently easy.
right.
Um,
So
I mean, it's probably the easiest of any decks played, I imagine.
I in the top eight, I suspect so.
Yeah. And in top 16 as well. You never know. I wouldn't say Lugia Arcaps is that hard either, but it depends. It can be hard depending on what you're running.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to do for most of the decks is straightforward. So when you don't draw well, then you have tricky choices.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, so Sander Wozniak, I don't know. He's a control player. He's probably the most well-known control player, at
yes.
least in terms of IRL competitions.
Hmm.
And so he played control at the World Championships. And so I have the list here. It's shown on screen. I'll just describe it. So it has
Yeah.
two. I don't know. It's a pretty standard control list, to be honest. It does run a 1/1. It has Evoltal, Regieleki to recover.
So
Um,
Yveltal, this is the one for that discards
Remove special
special
energy. Yeah.
energy, right? For two
Um,
colorless. Okay. So what's
Mimikyu to wall,
wait? So what's
Buffalant,
Regieleki
which
do?
Regieleki recovers in a trainer from your discard pile with its attack for one colorless.
Okay, good.
Um, it runs Raiding Greninja for draw, which is interesting. It actually runs it runs 12 energies. So we'll get
Yeah.
to 4 double turbo, 4 V guard, and then a psychic, water, and jet energy. But
Yep.
then you run Mimikyu to wall, Alolan
V.
Vulpix V Star, 1/1 to wall. Um, you have Buffalant to get rid of an energy attached to your opponent's active to, I believe, Lost Zone it.
Okay.
It does damage as well. And then you have Rotom V to draw. You also have Diancie, which I guess you just hide behind and use Rotom V. We could attack Diancie to draw. We don't see Hisuian Heavy Ball. Oh, no, we do see Hisuian Heavy Ball. Yes, you probably go for Rotom.
Hmm.
And then,
And there's Espeon
yeah,
VMAX
1/1 Espeon. You couldn't hack. You probably don't.
to protect, and
It
then
only plays one Psychic. And then
right, and there's
Sun.
Luxray V. You didn't skip that.
Yo,
And
yeah,
what's that one
Luxray
for?
V. It's a hand disruption card.
Okay.
And
So
then
that
Sun and Moon badge. You can like. I'm surprised there's. Oh wait, what's it called? A Moon Sun badge? I don't know.
I
Um,
can't.
but
Yeah,
anyway,
Sun is second. What's that one do? I don't
yeah,
remember.
it stops. It might give your. Is this the one that? Yes, it stops gusting on Espeon, which is fine.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
I suppose it makes sense, but only a 1/1 Espeon. It's a little surprising, but it's fine.
Yeah, just to
Also,
not
there's
give up
only
three prizes.
yeah, only one Force Seal Stone to me is a little bit surprising. I feel like two would have been nice. Although you could actually attack with Alolan Vulpix V-Star against Mew, but that's still kind of sketchy. You definitely want to go Evoltal if they're playing the Fusion, which most top lists were.
Right.
Um, there were some Penny aspects, Iono.
Hmm.
I mean, when I say Penny, it's not like a Penny base deck, but it plays Penny as most lists do.
Yeah,
It
two
has
penny.
4 Iono though, and then also has Flannery and Hammers for energy
Yeah, four
disruption.
four hammers, full set of hammers.
Yep,
So
yep. And then you have normal draw stuff. Only one boss, your Pioneer, Raihan, Colress. Has Bravery Charm to get your I don't know. I guess it's just general things to get bigger, to be more awkward for your opponent to deal with.
yeah.
Surprise no. Well, there's no Mawile Pot Helmet, but I guess that's definitely something you could play around. Um, and it
Partly
also runs.
with Lost Zone with Sableye, right? So Bravery Charm protects you from that, whereas the others, like Pot
Yeah.
Helmet, doesn't.
Yeah. And then you have Lost City here to lost on opponent's certain attacker, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's useful. This list is complicated, obviously. Um, but it's not honestly. It's like a normal control list as well. It doesn't go do anything too crazy.
Yeah, he
So
didn't. He didn't. It's not too radical from kind of stuff he's been working on before, right?
yeah, I've seen a lot of people run lists like this.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to talk about is YouTube. Uh, And so obviously Azul Garcia Grigo, okay, Azul GG, he's
Hmm.
one of the biggest Pokemon YouTube channels right now. Um, there are Pokemon TCG gameplay based YouTube channels, which is the what you and I are part of,
Right.
and then obviously there are a lot of people. And he finished fourth, which is good. Obviously,
Yes.
it's a very good finish.
Yep.
Um, but it's kind of strange. So I'm gonna actually pull up his channel.
Okay. Strange. Strange how?
Um, give me a sec.
Yeah.
So it's weird because he's a YouTuber,
Hmm.
and he's also playing competitively, which isn't crazy. For example, Wolfie VGC, the biggest um, video game competitive channel, obviously plays competitive and is a
Yes.
YouTuber.
Hmm.
But there are most the YouTubers don't play competitively and they're bigger. The TCG, a lot of them are competitive players, which makes it strange because it's weird. Competitive content isn't for most people; it's for some people. But for people who don't really play the game much, competitive content is just not the thing you're looking for.
But
So
it is though, right? Because the competitive players still get the subscribers and the views. So it's a
well, but they
strange
don't get as many
situation.
subscribers as well, there aren't non-competitive channel. There are some, but
Right.
there aren't as many. And the it's weird because Pokemon is a part of it's a TCG, but a lot of people collect. So if you're like a casual, you might not play the game at all.
Right.
So you
Then
might
you don't
not like
care
know the
about
rules.
gameplay channels at all.
Yeah. But then they still might watch it though. So I think there's definitely that niche to be filled, which isn't a niche. It's the main way to do it. And you see someone like Lil Dark Theory kind of
Hmm.
doing that and PCG Radio as well. But then it's weird. And then Azul Garcia Grigo, decently at 30,000 subscribers. And then Andrew Mahone with over 100,000 subscribers, aka Tricky Jim,
Right.
who finished, I believe, 23rd. I heard that somewhere. I don't know if that's
I know he
entirely
started
correct.
off pretty well, so he qualified to Worlds, and I think he had a very solid Worlds at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then these big channels are now essentially not dropping content, but reducing it. Specifically the Tricky Jim channel. If
Yeah.
you want to play competitively, you can't make the same level of content. Not that I'm saying my content's like amazing, but there are people who make very good content. The Tricky Gym channel made a lot of good content, especially around. I'll bring in GLC here. GLC was a really big thing. GLC's fallen off, and it was riding on Andrew Mahone's shoulders. And then because he was reducing the amount of content drastically, because he decided to, I guess, play and try to qualify for Worlds, and did qualify
Yeah.
for Worlds, the content hurt, and the format hurt, and it's weird because. I guess it's just because they like it. Because also, I gotta assume you'd make more money doing YouTube than playing competitively. You probably don't make money playing the game competitively, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Azul certainly part of his why he has the subscribers is he's considered one of the top players, right? I mean that does help his channels too.
Yes, but not completely, right? Like
Correct.
his videos aren't competitive videos. If he really was, the if people really did only love him because he was a top player, then he'd make competitive videos, right?
He
And
makes good
and
videos that people like, but the fact he's so good IRL his drives it there. The other thing that I heard someone tweet out, hey, now they can charge more on Metafy for coaching. I don't know. For some people, that's a big part of their
I mean,
income
Metafest is
too.
like such a scam. I feel like
Well,
it's just like you could pay money, but it's a game, so you're paying money, and then the better you get at the game, like the more, and I've
well,
experienced this, and I know a lot of people experience this. The better you get, the less fun you have. So you pay money to have less fun,
well. Look,
um,
I,
and then you're just sad. Like I was watching the tournament, and someone just like beat this person, and they just looked like really sad. They're just sitting there, like they like hated everything.
well, look,
It was
whether
very like unfortunate.
what's emotionally, mentally, and emotionally healthy, obviously, is its own question. But it might have been a bit tongue in cheek, right? But everybody knows Tord and Azul. They both made top four between both of them. So things can go up. Obviously, doing well. And there are people that's a big part of their income. I do think though, coaching.
What, playing
Coaching
competitive?
is
Oh,
coaching is
coaching.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
good
coaching
money for
would
some
probably make
people,
more.
and
Well,
therefore
because playing competitive doesn't really make money. So,
correct.
you
So
need some way of making money.
and I think for some
You can
people
certainly spend it
that's
making
much
money,
bigger
but
than YouTube. I think coaching is a decent way to make money if you're trying to be a Pokemon player. Whether people
yeah, like
should get coached or not, all that's up to them.
yeah, that is up to them. I'd personally, if you recommend to not do it. And you can get like the coaching for free anyways, so it doesn't feel like not necessarily the highest level, but you can get pretty good advice on just YouTube, and even like Twitch, by good players, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, play the game and pay attention to videos by a mix of people, and you'll improve. I mean, look, if your goal is to I want to qualify for something or I want to like make 256 at NAIC this year, and you have the resources, maybe go ahead and do it. Whether you're going to be happy or overall, that's up to you.
yeah, and one thing, last thing, there's obviously the idea of Pokemon that you want to be the very best.
Yeah.
And if you follow coaching, that can help you get there, but it won't get you all the way there. Like I don't think you're never gonna get better than your coach by just following them. Eventually, you need to do that on your own.
Yeah.
And if you're rushing the process, being a new Pokemon player is probably one of the most fun I've ever had because you
Hmm.
just experience the game from like a very fun point.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know. I think it's but back to the point of like content
Go
creation.
ahead. Yeah.
Um, it's weird with a lot of them playing competitively, um, because like I don't know. To me, it's not bad, but it's strange, and these people obviously aren't devoting all their time to it, which is for them it's certainly fine. But for the YouTube community as a whole, I don't know. I think we need some YouTube. I've mentioned this before that someone will reach 1 million subscribers eventually, and that will be a sign that the Pokemon TCG game has made it as a game, not just collectors, because there've been a
Right.
lot of collectors who have passed that. But Idrihon passed 100K. Uh,
Right.
Frosted
On
Caribou
gameplay
and
focused.
yeah, Frosted Caribou and um, PCG
PTCG
Radio
radio.
also did as well. But they're
I,
different, but
right.
they're
Tricky
not
Jim's the
completely
one
different.
that's exclusively gameplay focused, I would say. Right?
Tattoos.
I know, but
It's
90%, not
yeah, yeah.
5% plus. It's gameplay's the focus. The only one of those ones you mentioned that has hit those numbers that is truly gameplay focused.
Yeah.
And obviously to get to 1 million, there's only one person at 100,000. So, in the YouTube universe, as you've talked,
Who's barely growing as well. Andrew Hone's, I'd say, I wouldn't say it's struggling, but in terms of growth, is not meeting the numbers that you'd expect because he's backed off content, and because a lot of
right,
people have after COVID, like people picked up content creation during COVID, as did we, and then they dropped it off after COVID, but we've kept doing it, but a lot of
right,
people like stopped there, and then live has heard it because live's bad. PCGO
right,
wasn't that good as well. If PCGO was better, um, Pokemon would have done better. It did pretty well, but it could have done better, and live is not.
right. I mean, Andrew Hellman doesn't like to play live. He's said that. So he
Yeah.
doesn't doing IRL stuff for some of it with some fancy cameras, which is fine. But it's still, I don't think, as easy enjoyable to watch as the video game, as the game, right? As live is or PTCGO. It's just easier to follow, I think, than trying through a
Yeah.
camera based IRL thing.
Um, yeah, especially because it's someone else's setup. You don't really, if that's the only way you consume content, then it might be very relatively easy for you to follow.
Hmm.
But because it's like most people experience the game through live, or you'd experience it through
Yeah.
a variety of different ways. In which case, watching someone's specific tabletop setup will be a bit awkward to follow. Um, and especially with the alternate art, like sometimes you use like these weird arts, or if they're using like proxies, like you're gonna have no idea what's
Right.
going.
All right. And if you have glare, which can happen, then you can't see things. Two quick things. Part of the content, people consumed more content during COVID because the people were sitting around home with time. A lot of people, so therefore,
Yeah,
channel growth is slowed down too because the viewership is slowed down. And then the other thing, like with Azul in particular, he was really doing the content a lot, was struggling some for events. Then he started, when the events were coming up, he would stop making content for a bit. He started doing better. And now, like if you look at his channel, he started slowing down before Worlds and stuff. He makes less content before major events. So content also makes it hard to prep for events.
yeah, definitely. So we'll see how it. I predict that I predict some new channels are going to step in.
Okay.
I'd like to be one of those channels that kicks things off and helps the Pokemon scene, and grow personally as well. I'd love to get more subscribers. Wink,
Yeah,
wink.
if you
Nudge,
find what
nudge.
we're doing, subscribe. Pokemon needs to make live better too. I mean that's a
Yeah, I
factor.
think live's important. The TCG is cool. Like the TCG, if you haven't seen the trailer of the Paradox Token, we obviously talked about it, but you should check it out. It looks cool. It's animated well. It looks like it's made by a multi-billion-dollar franchise, which it is. Live does not. But
No,
Pokemon, they care. Like they care. They like making awesome stuff, and they make a good game.
they do,
I know you and I are a little different, and I imagine everyone else who watches, they all have different perspectives on Pokemon. But I like it because I like the gameplay, and it's a good game, I think.
yeah. I mean the gameplay and like the new card design from the is good. You know the way they design cards, the card design team makes a good game, right? Kids like it, which is what it is, but it's interesting for adults to play too, and that's a really hats off to Pokemon for that.
Yeah, but I think that's everything.
I I
Yeah,
think we've
I'm trying.
said
I'm trying to think.
I think we've said plenty.
Yeah.
So yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Again, you can find us. We're here, however you're listening to us, whether it's on our YouTube channels or on a podcast player. You can find the podcast on a podcast player if you're not doing that. And if you listen to that, we do have YouTube channels with other content. So check us out. Please like and subscribe, comment. We appreciate that. It helps grow the
You
channel.
sound so awkward saying that.
Oh, that's what you're supposed to say, but you seem kind of slow today, so I figured I better jump in
Uh,
and do that. Yeah, see? So hopefully hopefully maybe you checked out World and enjoyed it, and have a good week playing some Pokemon. Take care.
yep. See ya.